here from Second Dynasty. Hopefully the stream is now streaming, and you guys should shortly be seeing me in my office, and in the background the progress on the Notinante. So yeah, hopefully this is what you guys are seeing now, and joining me today is Zorima, as always. And we, as usual, if you guys want to add questions in the chat, ask about the process, ask anything really, please, by all means, stop lurking and ask your questions. Happy to answer them. But I thought I would start by previewing this week's work, and let's see, I don't know if I've got the camera set up here. I do.
There were some questions about the brick surfacing on that ship as to whether or not that was a permanent or keeper or not.
Yeah. I noticed that it's hit and miss for some people. And I think it's just one of those things, where you're either going to like it or you're not. But I personally think it works a little bit better. It looks a lot better in person than it does here. And I'll pick up the model and we can take a bit of a look at it. I really suck at trying to rotate things in opposite directions, but basically these, from my understanding, are either a combination of heat tiles, and if you look at the bottom of the space shuttle, for example, you can see that it's got a bunch of heat tiles all over it, or alternatively it's some kind of ablative armor, which basically you get hit in one section, it rips off a tile instead of big chunks of the ship, possibly in layers. And if you're dealing with micrometeorites or any objects that are traveling at, tens of thousands of kilometers per hour, you got to need that kind of armor, and this is kind of a different kind of ship. Although, let's pick it up and have a look at it, and we can discuss it a little bit more. So I need the close-up version, and here she is. I'm quite happy with the way it's actually looking, and the tiles, I think, they will look quite different once it's painted up. You can see the top of the ship here. I don't want to angle it too much, but I think, and that's why I didn't want to angle it. Basically, the front of the ship, I think, works quite well with the tiles. I'm trying to break them up a lot more. Avoid. Sorry?
Turn it sideways.
Turn it sideways. The top of the ship.
Turn it 90 degrees.
I'm a bit too close. I think I've partially knocked it apart, so need to slot it back into place here. Reasonably hardy. You can see I've actually added new pieces here with the ladders. Just some extra stuff to grip onto. I'm trying to. You could see some deformation there in the actual print. I've got this on order from a printer in the UK who's going to send it to the painter. And you can just sort of see that I've started breaking sections up so that it's not just all one tile everywhere, but that there's actually even these sort of sections where it's broken up a little bit more here, and there's a few different features. I imagine that Brian will probably add even more things to it. I'm just going to stick the... you can actually see that even the RCS thrusters have these little handholds now. I'm just trying to get this, so yeah, there's little handles on it now. I've got actually always... Sorry?
How difficult are the handles to print? Do you have any issues there?
No, none at all. I actually found that I did 8 of the RCS clusters, and I think of the 8 there was a single rung on one of them that hadn't printed correctly. Um, the ladders I've actually done before and got a good handle on it on some of the turrets. And you can see I've actually prepared these sections now. There has been some warping. I've had some issues with pieces lifting off my plates. I don't know if it's too hot or if it's too cold or what the deal is, but I seem to have adhesion issues again. Now the temperature has been yo-yoing back and forth here in Sweden, so I'm going to expect that's responsible, and I'm hoping that the professional print is going to have far less warping on the bottom. So that's where you can see these lines. These will have the side sections on them. Eventually, probably, g'day Blake. Probably going to have the retractable turrets. Sorry?
Right there where you just had your fingers at. Is that where you had the fuel module before last time? Right there?
The fuel module?
You had like a, I don't know, smooth surface, non-tiled object that was on that side.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, that was mostly just because I hadn't got to it yet. So, like, if I switch back, you can see that it has these side sections, and I'm not finished breaking them up 100%. But it makes a big difference with the tiles when they're running in different directions. And I'm going to try to break them up even more. You can see I've started adding a few little
That's going to be an
features to them
adjustable section, basically.
that make a big difference, culminating with like this section, which I thought had a nice structure to it.
It looks nice, man.
So these are stuff that I could potentially do variants of during the campaign to break it up even more than what's on the prototype. And actually, there should be just a ladder on 2 opposite sides. I think you can. I'll switch back to the camera, so you can sort of see that the ladders. Let's see, the ladder is there, and then again on this side. So there's sort of like a little bit of asymmetry going on, which is intentional. I think a little bit of asymmetry on the surface of a ship really sort of makes it look more functional, and these ladders give us a nice sense of scale. And then there's even the start of the next level down has printed last night. I tried redoing some of these side sections with the paneling. That's the interior. That's the let's see. Sorry, no. What is it? Okay, yeah, and you can see the slots there on the outside. Still got a tiny bit of curling on the bottom, so I'm a bit frustrated at the moment. I suspect it's because it's getting closer to summer. My what would you call it? Landlords or business landlords are probably not turning on the heating as much. And so I'm probably getting some temperature variations, I suspect. I've had the issue at home as well, but not as bad because I just have it in my office and it's more controlled. So yeah, we've gotten all the way down to the actual cargo airlock, and I think we'll switch to the 3D model instead. Alright, have I been using a brim with the prints? A brim, yes, but not... usually I don't have a contact brim.
A skirt. You usually have a skirt.
Yeah, skirt. Yeah. Yeah, I usually use a brim, not a skirt. So I've found in the past that the skirts really haven't been helping. I'm not really sure what it is. I'm wondering if maybe I should try and do a run turning the temperature on the plate off altogether. But then I've usually found that at certain times of the year, upping the plate temperature to like 70 degrees has helped, which seems to run contrary to what should be effectual with the first layer sticking. So I don't know. It is PLA. I need to maybe do a bit more experimentation, but right now, yesterday was a public holiday, so Ascension Day is a public holiday here. So yeah, we've got the start on the lower airlock here. I've basically settled now on the. I looked at the Chimera's airlock expansion. So I'm going to take the doors from this and work in a similar way, and they're going to recess down into possibly these next two levels, and I think it'll just be one door that rises up, because we don't have the room there, and that'll leave a lot of interior space that we don't have to mess with for the engine section. And this is something Zorima and I am going to have to discuss a bit more about, where to stick batteries and things like that. But leaving enough room. Sorry.
For the light kit, that we're putting batteries in it for a light kit. We're talking about doing the lighted engines on the model.
At least on the main model that we're going to photograph and film for the campaign. I have been looking at a late June release that might turn into July, because I tell myself every single time I need to make everything finished and painted, and because that first day or so is really really important, and maybe the difference between people harding the project or jumping on board straight away, which makes a lot of difference for momentum. But there should be a lot more stuff, sort of work in progress, coming out. Yeah, I've tried brims in the past with mixed results, and by brims, we mean the skirts. So I do get a decent looking first layer. It's like you can see that, like this probably doesn't have a ton of warping, but and the camera's kind of shit. But the first layer is very smooth. It's just that it's kind of warped in the corners here. So, and I did run heat on the for about 10 minutes before starting the print, so it would stabilize a bit. But yeah, it is what it is. In any case, yeah, I think it's still called a brim, but basically you close it so that it doesn't have the distance. But in Simplify 3D, we'd call it a skirt, I think. In any case, that.
Correct?
Sorry.
Then you usually use the Prusa slicer for all your.
Yeah, I do. So like, this is the next piece I'm going to print with the airlock upside down, so that these parts sticking out should sort of I don't want to. Oh, okay, that's a little bit of a small issue. I might need to correct that. But in any case, that wasn't meant for now. Yeah, basically, in the print settings, you have the skirt and brim there. So I usually use a skirt, not a brim. And I'm getting things confused because I use Simplify 3D as well on occasion. But yes, that's the update. Whoops, wrong Maya again. Yeah, the extra cleanup drove me nuts. I did use it a bit on a Chimera, but then all of a sudden, magically, at a certain point of the year, my prints came out perfect. So, I don't know. It's a point of frustration. This is the part I'm working on right now. Just getting this airlock door done, which finally brings me to the engines. So this should be done very soon. And yeah, these PDC housings here, I don't know if these will just be outcroppings to begin with interchangeable parts. I intend on making a version so it's retractable with full doors opening. It's going to be a project in and of itself. So I don't know that it's going to be in version 1, if you will. But it should be easily interchangeable with a couple of options. I think too that I'll probably do a few versions where you could add like additional living space or additional cargo or that kind of thing. I think there's a lot to consider with that. So yeah, overall, I'm getting happier with the detailing. I know the tiles have been an issue for some people, and I think it's going to be the same as with the Chimera. You're just either going to love it or hate it. Um, but it does look better in person, and my webcam is not doing it justice. Um, so yeah, today, 5mm brim. Yep. Today, I was discussing with Zorma. We really need to get on top of like some topics that you guys decide on. But I guess the last couple of weeks have been a little bit neglectful. Don't really think about the stream until like, oh fuck, it's Friday. Um, but yeah, I think you guys are gonna like the overall profile of this thing once it's done. I'll use the engines as an opportunity to break up the tiles a bit more. But even now, with these tiles running in different directions, I think it makes a big difference as far as breaking up the pattern and making it not feel like bricks. Hopefully, some people will agree. Some people are really excited about this. Some people are just like, oh, this is a turn off. So I feel like it will be polarizing. Um, but if you look at the Rocinante, it's definitely covered in tiles. Um, it's just going to be a case of how the
Could
paint
make
job
the next
looks.
round instead. You could change the style so they didn't look so bricky, but I mean, that's a lot of work at this.
Yeah, it is also a question of what is practical to implement and the different angles on the ship. And it's also a question of how much work I've already gotten through.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the internal panels that clip in, there isn't any interior work at the moment because since there's no windows, there's only the airlocks. I am focusing on getting the exterior completed so it can be professionally printed and painted. Um, hexagons are definitely out. They would be an absolute nightmare to work with because it's not just a case of um, selecting different parts. Like, okay, hexagons would be fine on a flat surface like this, but directly when we're switching to 45 degrees, okay, they might still work there, but here at the top, gonna be a nightmare. And the other thing too is that I've spent weeks and weeks and weeks on this, and it's just simply gotten too far. It was an early creative choice, and one I wouldn't have petitioned people to ask about. Simply looked at the Rocinante and was trying to use a similar design language. So yeah, it's a compromise. One possibility as a stretch goal or something is that a flat version could be possible with no tiles. That would be easier to do than trying to implement a different style of tile. So that could be a possibility. I didn't like to look at the tiles in the beginning either, but they definitely starting to grow on me as well as more detail gets added. And like I said, the print in person, I think it's the same with many 3D prints that you take a photo of it, you get a certain degree of like reflection from the plastic, or the camera lens is much better than the human eye. The actual result when you see it in person is much better. In any case,
Talk about the topic for next week then.
sorry.
Did you talk about a topic for next week, or what the topic would be?
Yeah, some suggestions would be good for that. Um, Especially from you guys that are most active in the chat. I noticed that both Blake and Chris are here, have been here since we started streaming every single episode. So if there's certain topics that you guys want to know about, I'd be quite happy to look into that.
Basically,
Not,
what we're looking for is information from you guys on topics that you know that you were obviously interested in. I mean, there's 3D modeling topics if that's what you're interested in, or if you're interested in more details on the ship itself, or maybe in well, how Ben originally thought to use it, or why he started doing these things, or I mean anything that kind of fits into the ship modeling category.
Could you maybe work a little on the interior panels and how they might work in the future? You mean the interior sections, like the walls that are going to slot onto these things?
You mean like a bridge section or something?
I mean, I could. The walls are decided on how thick they're going to be basically by the OpenLock templates. So I import them. Anyone that anyone can actually download the templates for OpenLock. They're basically wall sections. I've modified them so that they have clips on the top and bottom, and that's basically to attach different levels. The interior wall things, really it's going to be a case of here they'll be modular and just slot down on these edges. Basically where I've got these slots is actually a really thick part of the wall. This line here is where it would normally be. And you can sort of actually see that this is a modified template. You can kind of see where it comes here. So when you get the templates, you can kind of tell this is a template because it's triangulated. So, and also it has these inexplicable triangles here that, like, if I cleaned up this mesh, there's absolutely no reason to have these lines there at all, because it's much cleaner and nicer to have like quads, four cornered polygons, and all of these extra lines. So that's a dead giveaway that this is a template that I'm working on. And you can kind of see that they come, and this line here, right there, is actually, there's the same sort of pattern as is on this side. This is the interior side, and you can see that it has a side clip here and no bottom. I have to keep that in mind.
Yes, that's basically it. 2 millimeter thickness, because that's what the open lock template is.
Yeah. Basically, so I have this little space here in front of it to work with on normal tiles, and then I have all of this room here to work with on these corner ones. So I would probably make the wall hug a little bit closer. This is one of those creative choices that I kind of had to do blindly, but there's just so much that needs to be covered. These should slot on very easily, should be easy to take out, and they will include a little section of floor. So you'll get wall, you'll get floor, and probably won't be all of that deep, but then on top of that, normally what I would do is actually take the templates and I'd go in deeper than what you can with these kind of walls. As for the actual thickness of the wall panels, I can actually measure that by going into my, let's see, measure tools here, distance, and then if I just select that.
Well, he's checking that. Do you guys have an interest in basically having him go over his design choices from the previous model on the bridge that he's done? Do you want him to like go over that and how that looks and the setup for it? So you can see how that might interlock later with this when you finish this design on it? Or do you want him to go through a design process of building the bridge live?
Well, I mean,
Which would be
yeah, I love those answers where it's like, yes, yes to what? Um, we can do a session in the future when I'm doing the interior, which will be probably, I don't know, I don't want to commit to next week, but the week after I'll definitely be on the interior by then. I need to be on the interior by then. So this is 2.37 millimeters wide.
Your last, ship, and then show how that worked, and since that way you don't have to like get all this done and force the issue.
Except in this
Or do you
ship,
want to
it's
like
going to work quite different because we have these angled walls on the interior of the bridge, and it's going to be 2 levels. So basically, this is going to involve some custom pieces that aren't going to be like ships in the past. So it'll basically be a floor section, and then the walls will be built into the actual corners of the floor sections with a little bit of a lean on them. So probably will be hard to visualize, and I'll need to make new seats, new control panels, just due to the fact that they have these grav couches, and you want to get them on an angle. We'll get some openable cargo containers as a stretch
Thinking
goal
that
and
the
stuff.
topic next week that you want to do a design on this ship for the bridge, or are you thinking like 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from now is a possibility. I think it's
Two
going to
weeks
take
from
me all of next week to get the engine section finished.
so ideas for a topic maybe for next week then.
Yeah, I mean that's the cargo one could be done. Making openable cargo, we could modify something from Starship 4, and that could be something that could easily be done, and maybe added as a free thing. I've been thinking about that lately. That maybe sometimes on Fridays I can make objects that I just upload as sort of like free updates. Smaller items, I don't see an issue with having some free items that people could download and try out.
I'm
What
not
I
sure any
was,
like question. Do you see what he's saying there, Ben?
uh, will you still be able to remove each floor level? Absolutely. Yeah. Well, the thing is, the walls are going to be the main. Let me get my actual model going. The idea will be you will lift off this top part, so you're basically left with the floor of the bridge, and that's why I'm kind of going to build in some control panels and that sort of thing. So this will lift off, and underneath you'll have the floor for the bridge. The next level, this is all currently clipped on, but basically you'll take off the entire upper floor here, and the idea here is that you'll be able to lay it out on the table level by level. You'll be able to see the lateral wells, and you'll be able to move miniatures between levels, kind of like an old school deck plan. And ultimately, that's always been my goal, because I want to make them playable. That's half the point. That's why I've done tiles in the past that have got like half tiles, so that you can more easily see over them. When you're doing a complete ship, you kind of need to make a compromise, and for the most part, that's why I built things where the actual walls or hull of the ship is separate from the floor for the most part, so you can lift it out. Gets complicated with bulkheads because they're required for the structure of the ship. In the case of this ship, I think you'll lift it off level by level, and there'll be a complete piece, rather than, with the exception of the bridge, because the bridge, the top of the bridge is attached to these antenna at the front, and so you're kind of just going to have this two-leveled thing, basically, where you got your pilot up the top, the ladder coming down, and then like maybe 4 positions on these angled walls, I'm thinking, and then you'll have a ladder well that goes down completely through the bottom of the ship. That's what this little collared thing is there. So we'll have a way out there, and yeah, I think that's generally about where we're looking.
Yeah.
Or at
So
least,
to some, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. You're going to be able to lay out each of the given floor levels side by side, so you could play out a game of a boarding action throughout an entire ship.
yep.
With the Marines in each section, or the troopers in each section, or the crew, or whatever. Or you could stack it back up, depending on only using the top floor or some side floor.
Yep, exactly. So you can lift it off, it'll make it easier to transport. I think this ship will be easier to transport because you've got gravity on your side, easier to store because it's an upright ship, and in general, I think that'll be a benefit. So it'll be interesting to see if people like the third dimension being more emphasized in this ship or not. I think we'll probably lose a couple of backers, and we'll probably gain a couple of backers. And then, of course, the I come from tabletop role playing, so my influence on this one would be the Expanse role playing game. So this doesn't have any deck plans that I know of, or miniatures. It has has a map of the
Well,
Here's a map of a station, for example, that it's got. That's basically it, but it doesn't have anything for the ships as far as I know. So this would be an ideal way to sort of like be able to support this game with some actual miniatures. And miniatures is something I'd like to do later on in the year, um, to support that as well.
working with
It's
somebody on some of those, aren't you?
sorry.
You're working on somebody with some of those type of things, the
Yeah, I'm working
miniatures.
with a couple of different sculptors. So my idea for this year, normally I would do 2 ships in a year. This year I think it'll be the Notinante, which it won't be called during the project because it's a little bit too cheeky. I might call it the Phobos or Demos, since it's an indirect reference. The Rocinante was the I think it was called the Tycho, and it was a Martian. They call it a frigate or corvette. They kind of intermix the terms, but in any case, that's the Martian link with the moons of Mars. I think could be a cool project name. Haven't decided on it 100%, but that's what I'm leaning towards at the moment. I don't even know what the following is for the Expanse, but hopefully we'll get some Expanse interested people that. I mean, I think this will be a nice ship to have anyway. And as far as stretch goals are concerned, uh, I'll probably do larger ones that take a bit more time, and I'll probably do an engine block that is just a single engine, so you can get it fairly close to what the Rossi looks like by using mods. So it'll be kind of like the way I did an asymmetric variant of the Transport Delta, and yeah, damaged pieces like the Chimera set.
Stretch goal, wouldn't it?
Uh, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't know. They the 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 damaged tiles take a lot of thought. Um, I think, to be perfectly honest, you could probably achieve similar results if you used a heat gun and just reshaped finished parts.
Well, you could just
They were a
damage
nightmare to work
top
on.
surface, couldn't you, Ben?
So
As a stretch goal, just not like holes through the ship, but like just
yeah, it was a
some
stretch goal.
piles
I
off.
did not enjoy working on it one bit, and kind of wish I never suggested it. It was the one part of the campaign where I was just like, why the fuck did I promise this?
Mira,
What was that?
I lost, I lost your voice there. What'd you say?
I said it was a nightmare to work on, and the only part of the Chimera that I wish I never suggested as a stretch goal. Especially since it was a Halloween bonus. It's a cool idea, and I'd like to be able to do it well, but the kind of modeling that I do, like this would be something where sculpting would win over hand modeling things. Um, but I don't know, a little bit of damage with like some missing ablative tiles or that sort of thing, that might be possible. But then it always becomes a question of how many parts you're going to do, where on the ship is it going to be. Hard to customize the battle damage. It would be hard to swap out in practice as well. And then, honestly, a heat gun and printed parts and just like doing a custom job of melting plastic and making it look like it's exploded and that sort of thing is going to be probably easier to achieve than actually modeling it. So there's that. Just use the parts that have lifted off the print pad. Unfortunately, they don't quite. Yeah, you got a little bit of damage and it's just a slight curl in the corner. Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I have so many parts, but yeah, those are ideal candidates if you want to do damaged tiles, if that's what you mean, Blake. So yeah, even some gouges in them would be a good start. But again, it's quite easy to achieve, like just melting it with a lighter. Even you can do a lot with that.
So we'll do something with a light kit, but the light kit's going to be like for the picture and setup. I'm not sure what we'll do with it or release it. It might be too complicated for people to generically set up. So, I mean, I'll be doing it and
I
working on
meant
it.
battle
So,
damage
if
like
you're
this.
interested in it, you can communicate with me outside and we can hobby it or something. If it's something you want to do.
Yeah,
You just
lighting's a different thing. Because I would like to do engine lighting. It'll be optional. You can switch it out. I'm probably gonna try and channel a few things too, so that we can get some cool effects with. Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to do it for all the thrusters or that sort of thing. I'm kind of still in discussions with the guys here about how we're gonna film the ship. Um, it's gonna be a challenge. So I was looking at a quick fix as well. There was some mention on the Discord of discussing the Transport Delta extension, the long transport, if you will. And some people were like, "Oh, can't we have like an upper deck version?" And I thought, well, this might actually be a quick fix. So I've got a few of the items here that will be slightly different. But since the only real difference of this upper deck is uh, this section here and then this lengthened section here, it would be possible to essentially extend this section so it goes further.
You talked about me doing that as a live thing, right? Didn't you?
Yeah, I was thinking about doing it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next week, but cool. All right.
Well, we could possibly do that next week. I don't think it'll take too long because we actually are already 40 minutes in.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're 40 minutes in.
A cargo container strapped to the outside that can hold one of the fighter models would be cool. Yeah, that could be possible. And the fighters are something I would want to revisit because I had a lot of fun doing them, and I think there's so many new shapes that could be done. Even like maybe doing something with the turret ports as a sort of like possible way to attach certain fighters and that sort of thing, to have sort of like a ring to, yeah, I don't know, maybe do slightly larger ships in the same sort of vein. Yeah, or a small shuttlecraft. Well, that will likely be a kind of stretch goal. So yeah, maybe we'll save this for next week because I can work fast on this, but maybe not 20 minutes fast, and I do have a lot of work to do, as you guys can see. Just considering the fact that last week I got maybe 3 more decks done in the last week, which means that.
If you guys are live, how about a vote? Do you guys want to do the extension on that other ship, or do you want to do what modification
The
of
cargo thing could be done.
pod on this? What's more interesting?
And as far as small shuttlecraft is, like, one thing I've been thinking about lately is how big the shuttle actually is, and how you could easily do something that's a little bit more like runabout sized, um, or like one of those original
Ben, you want to do
series
that until
shuttles.
next week? The runabout.
Well, I mean, no, that everything in those sorts of dimensions, whenever you're getting into like a complete ship, it's nothing that can be done in an hour. Um,
Okay,
so
so two options. Give me two options, Ben. What would we be doing next week? What do you think?
next week, I think either we do that modification to the Transport Delta to add the top deck, or we do the openable cargo. So we look at the cargo that we had for Starship 4, and we do some modifications to those cargo pieces so that they can be opened up.
For a cargo mod, which do you guys prefer?
Yeah. And I know that there are quite a few people that check this out. So if you guys are looking at this on YouTube, leave it in the comments on YouTube um, after this stream gets
or post it on
there.
Discord, either one.
Yeah, or on the Discord, or like, but yeah, probably those are a good place to leave it so that we see them.
A link Discord here and the YouTube just to have it handy.
Yeah. So those are some viable options. All right, if we've got 20 minutes to fill, I can keep answering questions, and you guys can watch me fix these doors up a little bit. So I'll keep working on integrating these parts together. So usually when you're working on these sorts of parts, you want to isolate them. The challenge here is going to be interior and exterior. Damn, that's just the pattern. I thought I had the interior parts as well. Oh, what a pain in the butt. This is one of the leftover pains from having sections that are fully fleshed out like this, but then you realize that the tiles are not the same pattern exactly. If I send a pivot this and we move it down, oops, I want to duplicate that first and then send a pivot. So if I move this down to cover this position, let's see, we want it snapped to the grid. Alright, so that's the exact spot, but you'll notice that the lines here, there's 7 tiles, and here there's 6. So basically I need the back of this section with the front that I've just been working on here, but I'll do it one thing at a time. Also, the airlock sections here actually have the walls built into them because looking at the cargo bay of the Rocinante, it's actually decompressed via the main cargo door, so I don't know if they even usually have air in there at all. It kind of makes sense that if you have a cargo bay, there's no real reason to put an atmosphere in there. You want the crew to survive, but if you need to go down to there or engineering, you're going to want a suit on anyway. But yeah, so we've got kind of the superstructure. The actual Rocinante has an extra shell, so there would be room between there, but we just, with all the locks, we can't show something like that. And then there's also the scale question of, you know, the fact that most 28mm miniatures aren't exactly to scale. So yeah, we're just going to start with this outer sort of frame here, and what I'm trying to do, I'm going to turn on my wireframe so we can see unselected objects where they are. I've tried to move it so this is all lined up, but there's 1 or 2 places, such as here, where we're going to end up with some issues, and I'll just show you that. So I'm going to select both and combine them into one mesh, and what I'm going to do is switch to vertexes, select, basically we want to sew these together here, and we want to sew these together here. So I'm going to go merge vertices, and what you will see is that there'll be some slightly thicker lines. They don't always show up. You can see here on the inside we have a thicker line here. So yeah, it's just slightly thicker than the other lines or edges, and the reason for this is that this polygon here is a quad, so it has 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices, but this one is 2 quads. And so here we need a different solution. So the quick and easy way is just to delete that, double select the whole edge, and we'll just do a fill hole. And then when I change this into triangles, you can see that it creates a triangle between, so that's now all joined. And you'll notice that if I select this now, we have a thin line instead. So it's just an example of mesh reparations that you have to do on occasion to sort of make sure that everything's sewed together correctly. So we have another one here with the same issue. You can see they're not all selected together, so I'm just going to fill the hole. I don't think I'll finish this part. Oh, what else have we got? Oh, we've got some additional issues. All right, because we've got some more issues here, and right now Maya's like, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go. So we need to sort of manually fix some of these ourselves. I'm going to take this and that, bridge there. Might need to try and close this. Oops. Interesting. Why is that going together? It's saying that. Alright. When in doubt, the easiest way to solve these sorts of issues is to actually rebuild a new face, and now that's all joined together. So we want to get rid of this. Oh, no, there's already a hole there. We can go there and try and bridge. But yeah, we've still got an issue there. So if we do this, creates new issues the whole time, but it's one of those things. I'm sure other programs like Blender might not have the same issues. Maya has been in development since 1998, I believe. So it does have some legacy code that doesn't always cooperate. And we're basically going to have to do the same thing on the other side as well. But we want this hole in the middle. And then we want to have a similar pattern to the upper level on the lower level there. So we want the same kind of connections. We want to make sure we've got these clip holes. We'll need side clip holes. And that's where we get this older part. And what we can do is just sort of gut out the faces here that we don't want to use. Just creating like an outline. There's a lot of repetitive work on occasion. But basically we want to get this line around the edge free, so we're kind of going through this selection process, just selecting a few of these. So we when we expand the selection, it's going to take with it all of these sort of edge tiles. I think it'll make sense once it's all selected. So a lot of this is actually quite tedious, but you end up with a much cleaner model than what you would, oh shit, have selected. See these faces on the inside? This is something we don't want. Basically, when we've had this angled, something like that, we've clicked on something and it's clicked all of the faces behind it, taking them with us, and we really don't want that. We really don't want that. So hopefully there's not too many. Oops. Come on. They're trying to take this out. I like to say I have a love-hate relationship with Maya. Some days we get along great, and other days she's a real bitch. So I don't know if we'll get all of this done in the next 10 minutes or so, but now if I actually, oh fuck, I've done it again. Hopefully I don't end up with too many holes. There are reasonably quick ways of... Fuck! They keep being here. Alright, one way to sort of check it out is if you press 4, you can sort of see in between the walls, and we basically don't want anything on this interior side. We just want it to be all around the edges. And now it looks like it's at least localized to the edges, so I'm going to expand the selection. And now if I delete this, I should, in theory, no. Oh, right, yeah. This this hole right here is the culprit. So if we remove these vertexes as well, in fact we can take out this entire wall because we're not going to need it. Now we should be able to select this entire front, or rather the entire back here, invert the selection, and we've sort of got this empty wall now, which is what we want. And I'm going to take out these sections here as well. So it's usually a lot easier to work with an already existing piece and modify it than it is to build something from the ground. For example, I probably worked on this one wall piece for almost a day in the beginning just to get the right form. And now we've got it sort of doing the multiple selection thing again. We've got it broken down into something more reasonable. So I'm just going to take this frame now, and this will be the bottom level of the cargo bay, which is 4 inches high, 2 levels. And you can see these are out of alignment too, so we're going to have to go back and move those once this is moved into place. But you can see that most of these polygons are now sitting where they should be. And although the, like I said, these have 6 tiles high on the walls, but the old set had 7, so we don't need to realign it in this axis, just on the sort of sides. And we can do the same over here. Normally I would just mirror this side when I'm done, but not today. Alright, and so we'll need to get rid of these here because we'll rebuild that geometry. And before we merge these together, I'm just going to remove these vertexes, or rather move them. I don't think we need to remove them, just so that they're aligned to where these tiles are started. Actually, that needs to go down there, right? No? There. There. Actually, I'm going to move that down there because one of these has to merge, because we have 7. We need to make it 6. And then we're just going to merge them. And in theory, if we select this and this, mesh, combine, you can see the thick line again here. That's because the vertexes aren't merging. But if we now select these, it becomes a thin line, meaning that it successfully merged those sections. So I'm going to do it for this entire side. And we should see top and bottom, the thick lines have disappeared, and we have our basic, we've like restitched together this frame on the left side at least. I think the other side we're going to have some more issues again when we need to move these vertexes, and we still haven't tackled the sides. But I'll leave this as is, I think.
You make it look simple, dude.
Sorry?
You make it look very simple. You're quite good at this.
Oh, thanks. Simple it is, and it's just a case of if you have the right approach and thoughts, you know what issues to look for. And you can see the thicker lines here are showing us, we've come down too far here, and that's because the door frame we've used, it used to go down another inch into the frame, so that's going to need to be modified. We're going to need to modify how these are stitched up together, because the right side isn't done yet. And the chief difference is, actually, you know what, the only real difference is that this is sticking out and that part is sticking in. So if I actually take the top of this, like that much maybe, and then we go to detach and then separate. Oh, we've lost it. You can see that little bit's now separate, and you know what, I'm gonna ditch all of this on the right side, and we're just gonna mirror it So we'll, there's no point in actually working on that side and mirroring it until we're completely finished with this one. So I'm going to leave this open. I'm just going to come back here and I'm going to grab this wall. And my next process will probably be, I don't know, maybe that these will have slotted walls there. I don't know if it's easier to do that or to build it. The benefit of having these sliding walls is that you could print the exterior, which is kind of simplified, at like I don't know, 200 microns, and then you could do the interior walls at 150 or 100 and get a little bit more detail out of them. But really, with these patterns, you can have a good, decent look to things anyway. But yeah, we're going to repeat this pattern on the walls on the inside when we're done with it. We just kind of have to adjust a few pieces. But this door frame needs to fit, so I'm going to have a think about that, what I really want to do with it. But basically, we want to bridge here. We want to sew that back together so we don't have a problem in that corner. I'm just going to delete the history so we don't have too much crap coming with us. It's one of those things where it's good if you need to go back, but not simple either to achieve. So we're just going to basically extend this frame. And we're going to do another extrusion. And here we have another issue where this isn't going to match up because it's designed differently. So we just need to move these vertexes down so that they're going to create the correct pattern. Let's see, I don't know if we've got too much or too little. There, and oh god, how did that work out? The exact number. Maybe there is a god. Alright, and let's just take this here and we're going to do the good old trick of extrusion where, okay, we've just extended this, but if we want this line to be exact, we go to scale, and we're actually going to scale in the Y until it's completely flat. We just merge these, and you don't see any thick lines there. It's all one model. So this is going to take me a while yet to get completely done. The frame will have a door that works very similar. So if I just grab this, you'll be able to stick this into the frame. This isn't the exact one I'm going to use. I'll probably modify it a little bit more so that it'll be a single door that just rolls down. But this needs to sort of get into its track. For the time being, I'm just going to manually move this so you can see that it's sort of like aligned correctly. And you'll just be able to move this down into the hole below so that door should be functional. Just got to maybe rethink the way that it sort of hooks onto the top. Maybe add a switch or something so it holds in place, because that's one thing I wasn't fond of. But yeah, alright. Holes that share internal computer panels are better if they can be separated for printing. Yeah, I agree with that, and that's kind of like the line of thinking here. Although, my problem is how many tiles I've already done and how to design things in such a way that it doesn't require the redesign of everything else that's come before it. So those are things I'm thinking about. We don't have a perfect solution yet. It's a work in progress. There'll be more of it done next week. Hopefully next week, I'm hoping that by Friday we've actually gotten to the engine sections and it's more a question of how we're going to mount the lights. But Zoromar and I are now going to go offline. We're going to discuss the lights a little bit, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week. But don't forget to write whether or not you want to see a session on making the cargo from Starship 4 so that it's openable, or modifying the long transport from Starship 4 so that the section on the upper deck there also has an extension of the second level there that we've had in some past
Current vote right was the long cargo extension, as far as we know.
Right. So that's it for us for this week. And yeah, so guys, leave that in the comments or on the Discord. And I hope you guys have a good week. I hope to show you more next week. And yeah, see you guys then. All right. Thanks, Orma. Bye.
Bye.